This is My First Job in Sports web series, presented by SBR Net, your comprehensive source for sports data to the academic community. Here are the hosts of My First Job in Sports, Neil Schwartz and Dr. Lindsay Darvin.
Welcome to the summer 2024 edition of My First Job in Sports. You'll notice that I'm working with a new co-host. That's Dr. Tim Koba from High Point University. Dr. Tim, you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, of course. Neil, it's always a pleasure getting to talk to you. So I'm an assistant professor of sport management at High Point University. I teach sport finance and strategic management and have collaborated with Neil, who comes to my classroom working with students. And so over the past couple of years, he and I have really worked together on creating projects for students. And so it's always nice getting a chance to talk with you and getting a chance to hear other people's journeys and stories about how they started in sports.
You know, Tim and I really do share an interest in really helping students, get to that next level. Tim, of course, on the academic side, and me, of course, on the data side and the analytics side and all that. But Dr. Tim, what do you find as some of the most important things that you're doing for students to help them get to the next level?
So a lot of what we're doing with students at High Point is providing them with as many opportunities to get in front of decision makers as we can. And so we're always looking to partner with industries and businesses and providing students with chances to work on projects like they do with you, but also working on their networking ability, building their LinkedIn profile. And then because we don't specialize in a certain area of sport, all the faculty really just work on finding out what the passion area for the student is and helping them turn that into their future career path. And so it's getting to know the students, working with them, and then seeing how you can help build a bridge to where they want to go.
Dr. Tim, I know you went to Athens this year, or Greece, actually. And of course, Greece, the home of the Olympics. And of course, I have to admit, we're doing this show during the Olympics, and I have been like a nut, obsessed with all these Olympic events. Dr. Tim, what's your favorite event, just out of curiosity?
So don't get mad at me. I actually have it pulled up right next to me. I've been watching watching the gymnastics, and I will not tell you how it went. I love watching gymnastics. I love watching the track and field events. I love watching some of the weightlifting events, and it's just always amazing to me at that level of competition.
For me, I love the team events, and I'll tell you why. I for some reason, I just enjoy it when you see a team win and you see the excitement on the faces of all the members of the team. No matter how little or how much they contributed, they're part of a team. And I think, being part of a team can be a really rewarding experience. And even, I even find it when I work like in your classes, when we divide the class up into teams and they work in teams. That one project that we did where they had to do the strategic marketing class or strategic management class, they were working in teams. You could see how proud they were of each other and how much they rooted for each other. So let's get to our guest. Our guest on this episode of My First Job in Sports is Lisa Anne Higgins. She is the Director of Development for Florida Atlantic Athletics. Lisa, welcome to My First Job in Sports.
Thank you so much, Neil. I'm excited to be on.
Before we get too deep into what the development director does and really your whole career path, what I like to do is to take a little bit of a step in the Wayback Machine. And, give us a little bit about your background. Where are you from? What are some of the things, that maybe have influenced you, back in your childhood? Are you a sports person? Give us the download on Lisa Anne Higgins.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in South Florida. Home is Wellington, which is about 40 minutes north of where I'm at now. I grew up as a cheerleader. My mom was a high school cheerleading coach. I started cheering, I think, in sixth grade. I was on a super competitive high school cheer program. My cheerleading coach was someone that my mom coached back when she was in high school. So it was kind of a family lineage. After high school, I worked for Varsity, which is a Fortune 500 company leading the cheer and dance industry. I was a UCA staff instructor for 5 years. I always liked being around sports. My dad he was a assistant basketball coach at my high school, and the one sport that he played football, basketball, and baseball growing up, and the one sport that we got to bond over was track and field, and we were actually both pole vaulters. So that's a little known fact. But I loved being around sports. College football was always on in the house, and being a cheerleader kind of made me love being around sports because I had to be around sports. And I really, I wanted to understand offense and defense so that I could call the right cheers. But getting to know football, so I knew what sack that quarterback meant. And that's kind of how I got to know sports really well. And then growing up, sports were just the thing that everyone bonded over. Going out to dinner to make sure that we could watch the game, whether that be the World Series or whatever that might be. So definitely kind of grew up in a household where sports was a thing. I'm an only child, so it wasn't like I had siblings that played any other sports. So that was kind of my love for sports, was being a cheerleader and being around it.
LA, we get a lot of people that come on the show, and a lot of them have had a very kind of a non-linear kind of a path into the sports business. Now, yours, I would think, is a little bit more linear because you're a sports person. You love sports. My guess is you probably love hanging out in sports bars, and I dare say even maybe drinking beer and eating chicken wings with the guys, but I don't know if I want to go too far on there. But Lisa Anne, what do you love about sports? And how have you been able to translate that love of sports into your career?
I love the community. It's something that people can bond over, and I think especially at the collegiate level, there's fan bases that are passionate about it, and it brings people together, and it's something to do and something to look forward to. And whether it be football or baseball, or basketball or tennis, there's seasons that they go through, and it's something that you can live in and be in, and then it's also something to look forward to. So it's something that you always, besides 2020 and COVID, but it's something you can always know is coming and looking forward to. And I think I like the community that it creates. You don't need to love football to come to a football game if you just want to socialize and be around people too.
That's an interesting point that you made talking about community. I think that, more and more students need to understand really what that's all about. Being with friends, being with peers, being with coworkers. So let's go back. Okay, Lisa Anne Higgins is an undergrad, and you did your undergrad at?
I finished my undergrad at Florida Atlantic. So
Where'd you start?
I have kind of a weird story. I started at Ole Miss. So I like to say I lived every walk of life you could. As a college student, I went to Ole Miss. I was a founding member of a sorority there. So I did Ole Miss Rush and the recruitment story in that. Got the big SEC game days. Really, really loved my time in Oxford. But my dream was to cheer in college. And through a really fun sort of events, I ended up at East Mississippi Community College, which was seasons 1 and 2 of Last Chance U. And I ended up being a cheerleader being a cheerleader at East when they won the 2017 NJCAA National Championship. The football team did. So that was fantastic. And then I transferred home. Mom and Dad and I, we decided that I did it. I lived the dream, and now I actually need to finish a degree. And so I transferred back to Florida Atlantic. I declared a marketing major, and then I didn't really have that community, and I didn't really have anything to be involved with because I was at a new school and I was transferring as a junior, senior. You've already made your friends. And,
sure.
I ended up starting as a marketing intern with the athletic department because I was a marketing major, and I thought that just made sense. And so I started as a marketing intern, and I went from making game day pins to writing bowl game scripts. And I decided that was not for me. It was too behind the scenes for what I wanted to do. And I walked up to Michael and Alvin, who are my current bosses, and I walked up to them after a basketball game, and I said, "Do y'all need an intern in development?" And they said, I guess so. And so I started interning with them, interned with them through COVID as I finished my undergrad. Uh, and then and that's when I knew I wanted to work in development, work in the fundraising space. Not I don't think that I loved the actual calling people and cold calling people, that aspect of it yet, but I loved being out in front of people and getting to talk to people and going to events and that, you know, and I get to walk anywhere I want during football games and during basketball games, and I get the best seat in the house.
Awesome. So, Ellie,
Yeah.
I'm going to jump back just a little bit. And you said you got your current job by just walking up to a couple of people and asking if they needed help. So, can you talk to us about how important that step was for you, and what lessons that other students can take away from kind of taking that initiative?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, walking up to them and asking if I could be their intern, everyone loves free help. They weren't going to turn it down. But walking up to them and asking them if they needed help was definitely not outside my comfort zone. But it was a weird thing to look back on. And I was a 21-year-old and I walked up to two really established men that are going to be athletic directors one day and asked if I could help them. Um, it was pivotal for me because it introduced me to what's now my career path and what I want to do, and introduced me to some of my I have great friendships with both the people I call my boss, and they'll be in my life forever. So professionally and personally, that I mean, Alvin and Michael are both some of my biggest mentors and encouragers, and it's awesome to love the people that you get to work for too. So
Yeah.
that was a pivotal time, and it was just walking up to them after a basketball game and asking and telling them I wanted to help them for free.
I'm catching a lot of that community that's coming through everything, and how you talk about your relationships and how you're talking about having even made that first move. And so, as you're getting into development, can you kind of just share with some of our students who might not be aware of what athletic development is, just what that is, and how that sense of community kind of plays into what your current role is?
Absolutely. So um, college athletics fundraising is it's fundraising for student athlete scholarships and student athlete experience. That's I think at the forefront of everything we do, whether that be fundraising for indoor practice facility that's a capital campaign and huge investment, or if it's giving to the annual fund, and it's more transactional on like the benefits level. So I there's development is, and especially now as the industry keeps changing and evolving, especially with NIL, it covers such a wide variety and overview of so many different areas. Um, and so college athletic, it's fundraising 101. It's fundraising in higher education, but it's realistically more business development, connecting people, and that's where that sense of community kind of comes into. Of if I can take someone who really loves Florida Atlantic or really loves Boca and they want something to do on a Saturday that a ton of other people are going to be at, then I can get them to come to a football game. Even if the wife is like, I don't want to be here, there's something for you to do in the stadium while, husband and kids watch the game. There's always something to do. We're looking at building kind of like a playground at our baseball stadium just so that there's something to do for the kid
Kids.
who can't sit and watch a 3.5 hour baseball game. But
Or me.
I couldn't sit and watch 3.5. Kid, nothing. I'm an adult.
then we'll make adult size swings. Yeah.
LA, let me ask you, what you talk about, and Tim mentioned it also, your internship, but you literally said you had to make cold calls. Tell me what's going through your mind as you're making that very first phone call. You're thinking, oh my God, I can't do this, or oh my God, what am I going to do? Tell me, because a lot of students are really scared to take that first step, make that first call, because once they break the ice, there's no turning back.
Absolutely. It's scary. Like I still don't, it's my job, and I still, it's my least favorite part of the job is calling someone that I don't know all that much about and asking them, hey, like, I saw you gave $2,500 a couple years ago. Why? Um, and getting to know them in that way, and the steps of fundraising, which is identifying, qualifying, cultivating, soliciting, stewarding. So, you know, identifying why they gave to Florida Atlantic. Was it because you wanted postseason, NCAA Final Four tickets, when our men's basketball team, or did you see a social media like finding those things? And it's scary and it's hard. But once you do it, like, you've broken the ice and you can do it again and you learn from
Sure.
it. And I still learn from my calls every day. So the more practice, and it sucks. Like, the more practice, it gets easier. And now, leaving voicemails is great, but now when I actually get someone to answer the phone, getting to know them and just the art of conversation, and I've gotten better at, I think, conversing. So
So you strike me as someone who doesn't have a problem in having conversations with people. And part of what we try telling our students, we try teaching them, is the importance of building relationships. And so how important is it for you to build relationships with those potential donors or those potential people who can play a role in developing all of those assets that you're trying to build out?
absolutely critical. I mean, not everyone is going to be able to maybe give you money.
Hmm.
Not everyone's going to be able to be your $1 million prospect, but I mean, business development and friend raising is more so like what the job is. Um, some of my best friends have introduced me to some of my best donors. And so I was just telling one of our men's basketball managers, he was giving me a ride back on the golf cart. And I was chatting with him and I was talking to him, telling him keep up doing the hard work. And he was like, yeah, I've learned, what and like who in this industry is so important, and those relationships you build. And I was like, it's absolutely who but it's more so, who and what those people have to say about you. So those, and it's hard to maybe always have a positive impact on people, but getting in that way that you can, say yes to driving me across campus on a golf cart, because I those odd jobs that no one wants to do, like saying yes and being positive. It's I literally was 15 minutes from sitting down with you guys today, and he asked me, we were talking, and I was like, I didn't know when I started as our AD's assistant, I didn't know he knew my name when I was offered that job. And then I worked for him for 2.5 years. So definitely important things, because it's what Michael and Alvin had told him about me.
I know Dr. Tim's going to love this next area of conversation because it does involve, what you learned in school. But, in both undergrad and grad school, were some of the courses that you have benefited from the most so far in your career? By the way, I'm going to go the other way with this question too, but let's start on a positive note.
As far as undergrad goes, in my courses, I was a marketing major, and I will say that uh, Florida Atlantic's marketing uh, professors here are absolutely incredible. And I got to learn kind of the art of cold calling, and that I also got to learn that if I wanted to work in marketing after college, that meant sales.
Sure.
That's what marketing is post college. And I kind of do sales in some type of way, but I truthfully learned the product placement, all the 4 P's of marketing that you learn. I've taken that.
Oh,
And
wait!
oh
Stop the clock.
gosh,
What are they?
okay,
Now I'm going to quiz you. I
okay,
know what it is, by the way.
product, place, promotion, and price.
And one more:
Oh, there's 5. Oh, see,
price,
that's
product, promotion, and physical distribution, I believe wasn't it? Is that the right one, Dr. Kim?
Yeah, place. She said place. So, and then,
okay.
And then
Okay.
depending on who you talk to,
Ding.
there's public relations, there's people. So there's some
A lot of P's, though.
There are a lot of P's.
There are.
I teach finance, so.
I've actually been in Dr. Tim's class. He does a really nice strategic management class for sport, and Dr. Tim's invited me in there, and I really enjoy working with students like yourself. One of the things we find also is that, at SBRnet, we also have an event we do called Get in the Game. And Get in the Game is really focused on helping students, specifically of color, get jobs in the sports business. But the one thing that I always stress, and the one thing I talk about frequently, is that sales is a wonderful place to start your career in sports. Because frankly, what I learned when I got out of school, and the one thing that I carried through my entire career, is everybody sells.
Yep.
No matter if it's internal selling, external selling, everybody sells. Customer service reps, everybody sells. And I've taken, but now let's go the other way. Tell me about some of those courses you took that were like, oh man, why did I take that course?
Cool. I would probably say and I understood why I took it, and why I was asked to take it. It was part of the MBA in Sport Management program that I did here at Florida Atlantic, and it was a sports analytics class. And
be careful. Be careful.
Wait a minute.
And I think it might have been the messaging that was in the class.
Like what? Tell me.
Well, it was very specific to hockey.
Interesting.
I think I know who the professor was, but go ahead.
It was very specific to hockey, and I grew up in South Florida, and Florida Atlantic does not sponsor hockey, so I wasn't familiar with hockey. I didn't grow up a huge hockey fan. After the Panthers won the Stanley Cup, I'm now a huge hockey fan. But
me too.
But I didn't understand a lot of these things, and I understood what sports analytics was and why these things mattered. But I think it was more so the depth at which we went into comparing success rates based off of shots on goals across a minor league hockey team.
That's a good thing.
And I think the basis was, it was like, well, you didn't see a correlation, did you? And I was like, no. So why did I?
So what's the point of it?
What was the point of it? And that was something that I was like, no, there wasn't a correlation because there wasn't any consistency in it. So I don't understand. But on the end of, if I want to be an athletic director one day, looking at success rates and what coaches have done, and if I'm going to have to hire a head football coach at an NCAA Division I university, like understanding that analytics and what those numbers are on your resume are super important. And I understood that side of it. I just didn't understand why I did a project that didn't have any correlation.
You just saved yourself. You just made Neil very happy talking about the importance of data.
You did.
Me too, as well. So I'm gonna go off on the same thing here, and I'm gonna ask you, in terms of classes and what you're doing now, is there a class or a series of classes that you wish you would have taken that you didn't take, looking back on your academic career now?
I wish that I would have
more
taken
finance.
No. Sorry. No. I knew business and being an athletic CFO probably isn't in my future. So that one got crossed off maybe even before compliance. But
you might get there someday. Don't be dissing compliance.
No,
you mentioned
not
NIL.
I am a rule follower, but I don't know how much I want to tell other people to follow the rules if that's not where their heart takes them. As far as compliance goes, so much respect for what compliance is going through now as the NCAA gets things together. But as far as classes that I wish I would have taken, and I took 5.5 years to finish undergrad, so definitely took a lot of classes that maybe didn't count towards my degree.
Okay, that's fair.
But I wish I would have paid more attention in business law. Because kind of like,
Mm,
I
That's
think maybe
legit.
yeah.
I wish I would have paid more attention in business law. And because now reading the House settlement and trying to understand what these things are and the way things are talking, I feel like I wouldn't be learning and comprehending now. I might just be more comprehending if I'd paid more attention in business law, and why all these things happen. But as far as classes I wish I would have taken, I wish that I would have taken more, um, like science classes.
Really?
Um, I I think that what are sports medicine and sport injury, and it's such a fascinating thing that I wish I understood how these things worked more. So I think definitely not wanted to, start pre-med and go from there, but that was not in the sights either. But I wish I would have taken more science classes just because I feel like that's an area that I'm not well rounded in. Um, and and again, like the learning and comprehending kind of thing would
I
have
was a
been,
science geek,
yeah.
so before
Or just a,
let me just rephrase. I've been a nerd my whole life. So before doing this, I was actually an athletic trainer and strength and conditioning coach. And so when you're talking sales, that was one aspect that I always wish that I had that more of, as you're trying to attract clients. And I went the whole science route. And so what's always interesting to me in sport as well is you work in development. So I used to do athletic development from the athletic training standpoint. So the same term just gets used differently throughout sport.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
it's that everyone says, "Oh, athletic development." I say, "Yeah, making athletes faster, making them stronger, more injury resilient." And they're like, "No, I'm doing fundraising." I'm like, "No, we're
Right.
talking
Yeah.
about totally
Or
different things."
you have student athlete development on the
Yeah,
academics and student athlete development side of, life after ball, and that's development too. So definitely the same words used across the board, but yes.
Hey, we're speaking with Lisa Anne Higgins, Director of Development for the Florida Atlantic University Athletic Department. And truth be told, Florida Atlantic University is probably about 5 miles away from where I am currently sitting. So I am a little bit more, let's say, into the whole Florida Atlantic situation.
so
Lisa Ann, what was it like last year when when Florida Atlantic made it to the Final Four?
Absolutely incredible, and a whirlwind, and I don't really remember like what days happened when.
Did you go?
I did. So I was able to go. Started in Frisco with we were still in Conference USA at that point with the Hoops at the Star. That was We knew we were going to be good, and we knew we were going to go to the NCAA tournament, but I don't think none of us knew and none of us expected to go as far as we did.
Nobody did.
And for us to have been there, I remember seeing Anna May, who is our head coach Dusty May, our head coach's wife. I remember seeing her in the bathroom pregame of the Final Four game, and she was like, "LA," and I said, "Hi, Anna," and I turn around and I'm wearing a game day pin with her husband's face on it, and I'm like, do you want this? And she's like, "I can't believe we're here." So, I was like, I can't like, and
I think
so
she
for
just dissed her
me,
own husband, but that's okay.
but we knew we were going to be good, but we didn't know we were going to be Final Four good. And it was absolutely incredible. I remember I was our athletic director's assistant at the time, and Brian White, his family is kind of the royal family of college athletics, and he is the first brother of the three brothers to make it to the Final Four. So it's my shameless plug to Brian. But I looked at him and I asked him a question, and I was like, "So is this normal? I'm doing this, but is this normal?" And he looked at me. He was like, "Lisa Anne, I don't know. This is my
No-
first Final Four."
yeah,
Like, he
Nothing's
looked at
normal.
me and he was like,
Nothing's
"I don't
normal.
know." And so I think it was one of those things that it was happening, and then for me, part of the reason I didn't start at Florida Atlantic was because it wasn't, we weren't on the map,
Right.
and I wanted,
You weren't.
we weren't on the map.
It's like a lazy
Yeah, you
school. It was like a
wanted that
lazy
SEC
school.
experience. Yeah,
It
we
was like
get
a
it.
lazy school in East Boca. I remember
was-
what it was like
yeah.
8 years ago.
It was a commuter school, and
Yes.
that wasn't. I was like, I don't want that.
Howard Schnellenberger changed the landscape completely.
Absolutely. And so then, you know, when I transferred back, I like to say that I got to grow with Florida Atlantic. And that Final Four run was truthfully like, that was it. And I like got to look back and I was like,
it was magic.
It truly was. And you
It
talk
was
about,
magic.
we talked about community and like seeing the community just come together and all of South Florida. And I mean, I don't even have the statistics pulled up, but we had so many, you know, new people.
Yeah, including me.
Yeah.
So
I never rooted for Florida Atlantic.
On that, so two things here. The first is, if you haven't already done so, remember Neil only lives 5 miles from the university, so you might want to put him on your call list. Second is, speaking of call list, speaking of call list, how has that success transferred into your job? Has it made call volumes heavier? Has it made it easier? Has it been no change at all? What's that look like from your day-to-day business with that success?
Oh, just from that, the Final Four run is the reason that I get to work on our athletics fundraising team. The foundation looked at the three guys who are in our fundraising office, and they were like, "Oh, you do need help doing all of these things and raising all of this money." So truthfully, the Final Four run is the reason that the role I had opened up. So that's first and foremost, that created success for me. Our men's basketball season ticket waitlist, we've never had that problem, and now
we have one.
We have one, and you know, the season wasn't even over yet, and we had a wait list for season tickets for next year. So
cool.
That's a good problem to have.
That is a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have. It's you know, it's easy to get people interested when you have that success and when people know the brand and all of those things. And so it's definitely, you know, going back to the call list, it's hey, is there anything I can do? And that men's basketball success is directly translated to, you know, success in other sports and other teams winning recruiting. And when you're 1.8 miles from the beach and you can make it to the NCAA Final Four, it makes every other sport at our school attractive.
I wish I lived by the beach. I'd be surfing every day instead of teaching. And I can't surf.
LA, I want to kind of end on two things here, but I do Tim and I both appreciate you coming on my first job in sports today. But, you know, you seem very outgoing and probably don't have a problem networking, but tell us a little bit about how important a role networking has played in your personal development.
Having been at Florida Atlantic, this will be my 6th football season. The networking opportunities that I have had have brought me some of my best friendships, as well as other perspectives. So I'm at Florida Atlantic. This is how we do things. This is what works for, you know, this is what works for Michael and Alvin, and that's how they do things. But as I was starting this role and finding my footing, I could pick up the phone and I could phone a friend and call someone who was at a similar institution or even a smaller institution and say, hey, what would you do for this? And so for me, that's been great, professionally and personally, the friendships that I've made, but also the other perspectives that I can have. I love networking. I thrive at NACTA. I love networking. I can't even say that enough. I don't have a problem talking to people.
She does not have a problem talking to people.
We are not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Not even a little bit. So on networking and on your career path and how you've gotten to where you are, what advice do you have for graduating students who want to break into the sport industry?
Invest in yourself. you have to invest in yourself before you expect others to invest in you. That would first and foremost be the the best advice I could give is you have to invest in yourself. And that's not always monetary by any means, but it's putting yourself out there and creating opportunities and um, going back to kind of being like a solution oriented person. Uh, and and so for me, it's really hard for people to tell you no when you give them the problem and the
Yeah.
solution. And that starts with investing in yourself. I really wanted to go to NACDA this summer, and it was in Las Vegas. And so I knew that the university probably wasn't gonna pay for me to go to Vegas. Um, but taking it upon myself and applying for a stipend and making, doing those things. Now, instead of me asking, for $2,000, I'm only asking for $300 because I received a stipend to go to NACDA. So investing in yourself, and is the best advice I can give.
Awesome. And I have one more quick question. I know we're wrapping up, but I want to go back to something you said earlier about it's not who knows you, it's what they say about you. So as you're thinking about your next steps in the future, what are you hoping people are saying about you? Who is LA?
I hope that they think I'm always positive. I know that they're gonna say that I can talk to a wall. Um, as that's
Like,
I mean, you're
as that's
talking to
no,
us, so
wait,
I
you're
mean,
not taking a shot at me and Dr. Tim, are you? Please.
no, of course not.
Just
I
teasing.
like talking to y'all, but
Just teasing.
um, um, I that I'm positive and that I'm a grinder and I'm a hustler. I enjoy. I love the summer because it is a break, but I love the grind and the hustle of having a stacked day with events and getting home and for me, like, that's the feeling of success when I've done things and I've produced all day.
right.
Hey, I want to thank Lisa Anne Higgins, Director of Development for Florida Atlantic University Athletic Development Department. I have to say there were two things that you said that really, kind of stuck with me. And number one is, and Dr. Tim knows this, when I go in and talk to class, one of the things I talk about very early on is that sports are fun. And if you can't have fun in sports, find something else to do.
Absolutely.
And then the thing that you said about investing in yourself, I think that is really, really important. And I think people forget about that it comes from within and the light comes from within and the work ethic and all the things that make Lisa Ann Higgins, who you are and have helped you in your development come from within. Lisa Ann, Dr. Tim and I want to thank you again for being on My First Job in Sports.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of My First Job in Sports, presented by SBR Net. You can check out the video version on the SBR Net Video Corner on YouTube. You can also catch the audio version on all major podcast platforms. Just search for My First Job in Sports. My First Job in Sports is produced by Brad Mabey. You can connect with us on all social media platforms, including Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or check us out at sbrnet.com. Thank you for tuning in.